A little while ago, we here at Men's Rights Edmonton went down to the Edmonton Slut Walk. I had a sign that said, "I heart sluts," and I made it abundantly clear that I was there to show my love and support for sluts, and nothing else. Somehow, this got described as a counter-protest by several media outlets, including Metro Magazine, and CI activist Speaker's Corner with activist Ryjin Vander Hoek. Now, the video by Ryjin Vander Hoek is about 25 minutes long, so I'm not going to comment on the whole thing. I'm just going to take a few choice sections out and talk about those. But it is important that you see what he had to say in the context that it was given. So I'm going to link to that video in the low bar, and I encourage you to go watch it and comment and rate it. I'm just kidding. The comments and ratings have been disabled.
The sharing of stories is absolutely vital to our human survival. And you can't use the brick of logic to smash in the head of some chick who's trying to talk about her feelings. There's an emotional component to all of these stories that refuses to be put into tables. It refuses to simply enter equations. And now at 27, I'm finally facing the fact that logic is not the be-all and end-all in every conversation. And
you know, a couple of years ago, when I first heard that feminists were saying that using logic was abusive, I didn't believe it. Apparently, it's an idea that caught on. I guess using logic is exactly like using a brick to smash a girl's head in. Who knew?
Women saying that they shouldn't be ashamed to dress the way they want. And still, these MRAs have got to come out and taunt and say that it's their fault what happens because of the way they choose to flaunt. And I mean, they actually have men who suggest that it's women's fault when rape takes place.
We never said that. There's no evidence that we said that. You're making stuff up and putting words in our mouth.
Okay, MRAs. I get it. Domestic violence goes both ways. But it seems that most of the safe spaces are only for ladies. Does this mean that we should raise their buildings and burn them to the ground? Maybe that's going a little bit over the top. Okay, let's work together to set up safe spaces for dudes too. But really, when it comes down to a dispute, I've met a lot of ladies with a mean right hook. But I've never met a girl without a glass jaw. Safe spaces, you want them, create them. That's what people do when they want to see the world improved, is they build. They don't just claw and drag back and whine and scrape. You know, make the world a better place. Don't just hate people.
Well, actually, Ryjin, we have been trying to do that. If you watch vlog number 3 in the video section of our website, you'll see that I interviewed Earl Silverman, who ran the Men's Alternative Safe House in Calgary. That was a project that he worked on for 20 years, and the whole time I think he got one $700 check from the government to help out with that. Because he got no help and no recognition, when he had to sell the house, he hung himself. There was an effort to build a shelter in his name, and Men's Rights Edmonton contributed a large sum of money to that. I don't know what's going on with that right now, but you said that you wanted to help. So if you want to make a contribution, you can donate through our website, or you can contact us through our website. Moving along, what I find interesting is your take on Dr. Warren Farrell's lecture entitled The Boy Crisis, which he gave at the University of Toronto, which is the one where feminists blocked the doors and physically prevented people from entering.
Did this dude deserve to have his right to speak? Maybe. Should it be in a university? Not if I'm paying.
That sounds very clearly like you have no interest in hearing what he has to say. Now, that's fine, that's your right. I'm not going to criticize, yet. What I am going to do is answer a question that you asked.
I can't even fathom the reaction? Like, how did it play out in your mind? Did you think that maybe these women would see your clever signs and suddenly be like, oh man, they've been right this whole time, and basically whenever I go have a couple of drinks and wear a top with a strap, I'm pretty much begging to be tied down and banged in the ass? That's really crude. And I think, MRAs, that it was really tasteless of you.
No, that's not what we were thinking at all, especially since what you described is not our position. What we were thinking is that we would go to the slut walk, and no matter what we said, feminists would try to find something wrong with it, even if our signs said the exact same thing as theirs. I'm not kidding. Danielle Parati, the organizer of the slut walk, had a sign that said, Jesus Heart Sluts, and she came and got a picture taken with us. Omar Mwalem in Metro said that our signs would have been indistinguishable from the Slutwalkers' signs if it weren't for our very recognizable logos. What we were thinking was that the fembots, having no negative message out of us, would fabricate their own. And that's precisely what you and Omar Mwalem did when you called what we did a protest. We went to a slut walk with pro-slut signs verbally articulating a pro-slut message. It's a good thing you said that logic is not the be-all and end-all, because there is no logical way to call what we did a protest.
Video games. How about that? There's now a whole generation who actually lack any sort of creative capacity, any sort of social skills. Wait, MRAs, before you go pulling up all those polls and studies that show the skills developed from playing games that include heightened reflexes, I mean, that stuff is great, but honestly, who are you kidding?
Well, Ryan, I don't know a single MRA who's ever made that argument. I do know an MRA who said that video games were contributing to boys' failure to launch. It was Dr. Warren Farrell at his U of T lecture, The Boy Crisis. When, you know, that lecture that you just said he probably shouldn't have had on campus?
Here's the problem with video games when done too much. Playing video games engorges the nucleus accumbens portion of the brain with blood, motivating the boy to win at the game. But it doesn't motivate him to win at life. Why? Because it shuts off the blood flow to the part of the brain, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, that is responsible for translating what motivation into goals that are usable in the real world. We actually have a part of our brain that translates motivation into real life accomplishments as opposed to just winning in a game accomplishment.
After telling us all how important it is to listen, and for everyone's voices to be heard, unless those voices are in a university and they're talking about issues faced by young boys, Ryan goes on to tell us what we should and should not be worried about, and what we should and should not be angry about.
But I don't see it as productive, all the screaming and the frothing and all the name-calling and the taunting and all the petulant foot stomping. Let's start with something small, like the tip of a dick. Leave the feminists. Just work on the pricks. Not you guys the pricks. I mean, legitimate dicks. End male circumcision. That's a starting stone step. That's it. We don't need to hate on their shelters or the twisted court system. We don't need to be baffled or angry that there's so many of us in prison. Let's just deal with the things one step at a time. And I'll worry about yours. You can worry about mine.
He's flat out telling us not to be angry about the injustices in the family courts. He's Edmonton's biggest pot legalization activist, and he's telling us not to be angry about an overcrowded prison industrial complex. You know what? I'm going to presumptuously speak on behalf of every single MRA on the face of the earth in response to this, largely because they can't go to the video and give him a piece of their mind themselves on the comments section. Ryan, I listened to your suggestions on how we should do shit, and here's my counter-proposal. We're gonna keep on arguing against feminism and saying that it's an ideology of hate. We are going to focus on the things that matter to us and not the things that you've just told us are important. We're definitely going to keep being rude, and we're just as definitely going to wait for you to make good on your offer to help us create a male safe space. Eric Duckman, mensrightsedmonton.com.